When I decided to do a series of interviews with the saints of St. Thomas, Evelyn Roberts was at the top of my list. She is the unofficial grandmother to everyone she meets, truly the heart and soul of the congregation. Despite years of health problems, she soldiers on, dispensing the best hugs ever and genuinely loving everyone in sight. I think that anyone who can meet her in any small way is better off afterward, which is why I'm delighted that she agreed to speak with me today. So, Evelyn, thank you so much for being on Finding Beauty. And first of all, I wanted to ask you, since I mentioned you being so important to St. Thomas, can you remember the time that you first became sure of your faith, or was that a gradual thing or all at once?
My faith started when I was 4 years old.
Oh, wow.
In Shrewsbury, Massachusetts. I went to Sunday school every Sunday, and until I was married, I kind of stayed within those boundaries. And then, of course, with my getting married and my husband traveling, then was connected with many, in fact, 5 different states until we got to Pennsylvania and settled here.
Mm-hmm.
And back in 1967. But St. Thomas is at the very top of my heart. I love my family.
Yeah, we can feel that. And so you mentioned that you lived in 5 different states. Where else did you live?
The reason we were in 5 different states was Francis was in the poultry industry, the hatchery end of it, and because of different circumstances, he was asked to manage hatcheries in these different states until we got to Pennsylvania, and that's what brought us here also.
Okay. So we'll get back to talking about Francis, but can you tell me about your childhood, other than, you mentioned at 4 was when you first felt called or just, knew that you were committed to God. Is that a fair statement?
That is a true statement. I went to Sunday school, and then after I got old enough, then I started singing in the choir.
Oh.
There was the church. There was a chapel to the main church up in Boylston, Mass, which was a few miles from the chapel, and I also sang in that choir. But and that was where I was confirmed.
Okay.
I was confirmed in a congregational church, and I was also baptized there.
Mm-hmm. So, do you have any other memories of childhood? Did you have siblings?
Oh, yes, I did. In fact, there were 7 of us.
Oh.
But my mother passed away when I was 3 years old.
Wow.
And I was born in Springfield, Vermont. My mother passed away from blood poisoning, and an aunt, bless her heart, raised me, brought me to Massachusetts, and so that's where I lived. I never knew my mother.
Wow. And so, a lot of times people who have that sort of childhood experience, I don't know, it's a difficult thing to overcome. I would never guess that because you are so openly loving. You hear of people, having some sort of, just difficulties relating when they've had that sort of a trauma at such a young age. So was your aunt must have been a wonderful person? Is that true, or I hope so?
Well, I must tell you, her husband was an engineer on the Boston and Maine Railroad.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a huge place, and oh gracious, the yards and everything were just tremendous. And the friends of theirs always gathered at our place. I had more grandmothers and grandfathers and aunts and uncles, and very, very loving people. And being just a small child myself, I get kind of spoiled. And so I learned to love people at a very young age. And I have remained that way all my life. As Francis used to say, I have never met a stranger, and I always told him I never intended to, that I didn't feel that was why God put me on this earth.
I believe that. So today is the day after what would have been the 90th birthday of Francis, who I know was the love of your life. And how long were you married?
We were married 62 years, right to the very day. He passed away at 10:15 in the morning, and had he lived until 7 o'clock, it would have been right to the dot.
Wow, yeah. Well, I know I'm quite certain that he wanted to say happy anniversary to you, before he went. I'm pretty sure of that. Can you tell me how you met?
Well, I met through his brother. His brother happened to be exactly born the same day as I. We were the same age, went to school together. I was the only girl in shop.
Oh.
I had gotten tired of home economics, and so I had to ask the principal for permission to take shop, which he gave me. And Francis's brother happened to be in shop class at the same time, and that's how I heard about this wonderful brother. And I thought if I ever met him, he was not going to get away.
And he didn't. He didn't. And you have how many children and grandchildren from that union?
Well, we had 3 children, a boy and 2 girls, and we have 10 grandchildren, 23 great grandchildren, and 3 great grandchildren. So
a lot of a legacy of that union. Okay, so I was going to ask you this question a little later, but I think I'll ask you now. I was going to say a word that I've always associated with you, other than loving, is feisty. And was this quality that was encouraged? Because you're talking about taking shop. I mean, what year was that?
Let's see. I have to stop and think. It's so long ago.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That was back in the, the 40s.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I know in the World War that there were a lot of women who ended up doing things like, the Rosie the Riveter thing. But, I mean, I was just wondering, were you encouraged to be feisty and independent?
Well, I guess probably I was in a way, Maria, because I did a lot of things. I was a 4-H club member. I belonged to the Girls Club in Worcester, Massachusetts. And I also took courses through the Red Cross. I loved to walk, and I did a lot of walking. And the things that I did, I think, created probably some of my feistiness, because I helped other people, friends of the family that needed help with perhaps the cleaning of their homes. This was something that I think was kind of maybe expected of me. And so I thought, well, I've got to get in there and do these things.
Yeah.
Make people proud of me.
But, I know that, even having the wherewithal to say, I'm tired of home ec and I want to do shop instead, now it's something that I think they make boys and girls do a little bit of each, which is a good idea in my opinion. But I know that wasn't the way things went back then. But
I was a tomboy. Yep.
Yeah.
I was climbing trees and doing all the things that, maybe that's where I got all my feistiness from.
Did you have a career of your own, or did you were mainly, or was it difficult because Francis traveled so much?
No, I stayed and raised the children. This was what was expected of me, and which, of course, I enjoyed tremendously to be with my children.
Okay.
And I am very proud of my children.
Oh, and deservedly so. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, see, Francis, he hated when we had to go to a lumber yard because, we also had a construction business. And we designed and built our own home up in New Hampshire. And whenever we would go to a lumber yard, he would have to come and pull me away from the lumber.
Wow.
Because I just had to stay there. I was just fascinated with it.
Wow.
For being a girl. Oh, well.
So if you had been, so if you think if you'd been in another era, I mean, I know you mentioned about your kids and, not having any desire to do anything but raise your kids.
That's
but
right.
I was just wondering, yeah. So, I mean, do you think that if in another era when your children were older, if you had the opportunity to do something that was related to, was it construction or something where you could have had a more active role? Is that something that you wish you could have done? Or
yes, because we did have a construction business and did build a house here in Lidditz for sale. And so I did what I could. In fact, that's how I ruined my knees when we built a house up in New Hampshire because I set the nails on Virginia oak hardwood floors. Oh. And that was a job. Okay. But I loved it. And, I would love to be able to do it today, even at my age. I'll be 86 next month.
Yeah.
But, I would love to be able to do that today. But, of course, it was for health reasons and everything. And because of my knees, I can't do it. But I'd love to.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to.
Even to say tomboy, I think now, hopefully, I think it still exists, but hopefully we'll get to a time where women can do these sorts of things, and no one really asks any questions. You have a talent for something or an interest in something, and if that's what you want to do, there's no reason why until, something happens to you specifically like your knees, which could happen to a man, that you shouldn't be allowed to do that sort of stuff. And hopefully one day no one's going to talk about tomboy, which seems to imply that you're doing something that a boy should be doing.
And I know that. What?
Yeah.
I didn't mind being called a tomboy, though.
Yeah, I believe that.
Even back then.
Yeah.
Well, because I felt kind of proud of it, to say the least.
Yeah.
Because, that even back then, boys didn't think girls should do certain things.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you want to do them anyway, and you did, and that's
cool. There's the feistiness. Yeah, oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Well, congratulations. I think it's wonderful, and again, that's one of the reasons that I think you're inspiring.
The only place that I really did anything when my children were young, we lived out in Kansas City, Missouri, and I was asked by one of the schools that my daughter went to if I would please come and work at the school, and I said I would be more than happy to. I worked for the Kansas City, Missouri school system, and I worked on the Head Start program. And needless to say that at times it kind of broke my heart, the homes that I had to go into where families were destitute. But it was fulfilling because it was going to give their children an opportunity to have a better head start for their schooling. So I enjoyed that very much and worked at it until we came to Pennsylvania.
And I know when I first started going to St. Thomas, you were working with the Sunday school. And
yes.
When did you start doing that? I assume that you must have done that for quite a while.
Yes, I did, and I loved every minute of it. And I just love our little people tremendously that we have. I just wish I could go up and hug them when they're having their little sermon at church.
I'm sure they'd appreciate that. So, I mean, how old were you when you started teaching in Sunday school?
Oh my gosh. Let's see. This is going really back. It was in the early 2000s when I started teaching Sunday school. Started with the very young people. And then because of Francis's health, and I really had to kind of give my attention to him, so I had to stop teaching Sunday school.
And let me ask you, since we're talking about Francis again, do you have any advice for people who might want to stay married for 62 years? That's not something we assume ever. So do you have any advice about that?
Well, the only advice that I really have on a long marriage is that you have to be considerate of each other, and you have to love with all your heart. There's going to be times when you might not agree, and what I used to say to Francis, which probably a lot of people wouldn't probably want to use, but I used to say to him, if you say so, dear, but he knew I wasn't agreeing with him. But I also wasn't telling him what exactly my idea either. So it kind of, but we loved each other so dearly, and of course I miss him greatly because he's been gone for 6 years.
Wow. You know, I can sort of see what there's this thing, pick your battles, and I would assume that sort of thing, if it's something that you realize you're not going to agree on, or it's not that important that you express your opinion, then, that is a sort of a shortcut way of saying, okay, I hear you, I don't agree with you, and I'm not going to make an argument of it. So I could see how that could prevent some situations that really wouldn't need to happen over things that are trivial.
Oh, sure.
So that sounds like very good advice. Yeah. So, well, okay, I know that music was very important to Francis, and he wrote songs, and including a lovely tribute to you, and he also played the trumpet. And I was wondering, you mentioned that you sang in a choir. Has art and music been important to you through your life? Because I always ask people about music and art.
It was because Francis was very, very important to me, as you can very well imagine. I loved him so dearly, and he had a beautiful voice. And of course, as he got older, his voice got a little bit rougher. But yes, he wrote poetry, and he wrote songs, and he wrote a book called The Long Journey Home, which was about his life, which was not always an easy life, but he got through it, bless his heart. But I kept all of his papers from the time that he was even in school when I didn't even know him.
Wow.
He was really surprised. In fact, I still have them. And I just don't have the heart to part with them.
I can understand that. I mean, I have still something on my fridge that, my dad had some scripture verses that he wrote, and he had there was a bathroom that he used mainly, and my mom used another bathroom, and he had them on this metal cabinet so that, on a magnet. So when my dad died, I took those with me, and they're still on my fridge. I can't say I read them every day, but there's something about just having his handwriting there and knowing that was something that inspired him that, I don't know, I'm like you. I'm not going to part with it, even though I don't actually read it most of the time. I usually just open and close my fridge. Every once in a while I will read it, but just knowing it's there, makes me happy, I guess, or I don't know. I understand you anyway.
I can understand that because I have tried to sit down and reread Francis's book, even though I know just about every word in it. But I get to the first page and the tears start, and I can't go any further. Maybe one of these days I'll be able to read it without crying. I'll see. But
I don't even think. I mean, I know that there's a difference maybe with reading how someone's expressed it themselves, but I mean, I suppose as you said, every word. It's already kind of a part of your DNA. But what's interesting to me is that you're so selfless in that if I ask questions about you and your childhood and different things, it seems like most of it is this great love affair that you had, and talking about how proud you are of your children, and that spirit of just giving to other people and sharing with other people without so much concern for yourself is really lovely in a time when people are so narcissistic. So I love that. So thank you.
No, other people are very, very important to me. I love people. I love people from, all ages, from little teeny babies right up until they're ready to take that trip to the Lord. That's the way I have always been. I've always had so many people around me when I was growing up, as I said, with my dad being, because I called him Dad and I called my aunt Mom, because they were really the only ones I really knew, was losing my mother at such a young age. And all that's left of us children is myself and a brother who is younger. The rest have all passed on. And I look back and I think, it was a shame in a way that I didn't get to know. I had 4 sisters and another brother, that I didn't really get to know my siblings. But someday I will, when that day comes.
Absolutely. And you'll have an eternity.
That's
really
right, exactly.
Yeah.
But I am thankful for the childhood that I had. We had, everybody was aunt and uncle. I was not allowed to call anybody by their first name. They had to be either aunt or uncle. Yeah,
that was the way that generation certainly did it. I know my mom is of that generation as well. Yeah,
exactly. All out of respect, and so I learned respect for people at a very young age, and I don't regret it one single bit. I'm so happy to have had that raising.
Now I have just like literally three more questions for you. One of them is about St. Jude's Hospital. Am I correct in saying that you had a special association with St. Jude's? Because I remember, I think, you taking a trip there at one point. Can you talk about that?
St. Jude's Children's Hospital?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
I haven't made that trip. I have an invitation to go, but I have not because of health reasons. I have not been able to make that trip. But I'm in hopes one of these days that I do. I support them. They're children. And it breaks my heart when I find out about some young child that, has a major problem and don't make it. And so it is very, very dear to my heart.
And so that's how you got invited. I mean, you were just such a supporter that they invited you to come to the hospital. Is that right?
Yes. Yes, wow. That's how I got invited to the hospital. I had written a little note, and I won't repeat what I had written in the note, but I had gotten a special invitation to come and visit St. Jude's, and that is something I am looking forward to very, very much.
Yeah. Well, okay, I have 2 more questions, and one is, how do you define beauty?
How do I define beauty?
Yes.
I define beauty with a personality that comes directly from the heart.
Mm-hmm.
I do not care about the looks, physical looks. I care about the heart. That is the beauty.
I believe that.
Yes.
And my final question is a really hypothetical question, but I ask everybody. Can art change the world?
Can art change the world?
Yeah, meaning art, music, anything, literature, anything that has to do with the arts. What do you think?
I think it could.
Mm-hmm.
We have beautiful art in every form that I can possibly think of.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I look at Malcolm's art that he does on his tiles, and it just amazes me. I have trouble drawing a straight line. So, if I had to draw a curved line, maybe I could draw a straight line. But no, I think it could in every single form, no matter what the form, whether it be in art itself or if it's in music. Music, I dearly love music. I love our hymns. I love our choir at church. Those voices, it just makes my heart sing when I hear those voices. And I think what a beautiful gift God has given each and every one of them. Because I have trouble sometimes singing. But they have the beautiful, beautiful voices.
Great. I'm glad for each and every one of them, too. I can tell you for sure.
Oh, my.
There aren't a lot of them, so each one is very important, and I'm certainly glad for each one, absolutely. But, well, okay, well, that's, is there anything else that you feel that you'd like to share?
Well, let's see. If I could hug this world, and if it would make this world a peaceful place, I would love to be able to do it.
Well, if there was a way for everybody in the world to get at least one hug from you, I think that would it might just do the trick. So we've got to have a World Evelyn tour.
Bless your heart. Oh no,
I think that'd be fantastic.
In my prayers every night, I ask our Lord and Savior to please find a way that this world can learn to love one another, and perhaps this world would be a much better place.
I'm grateful that you were praying that, and I think other people are praying that, and we need to keep praying that. Wow.
Oh, we need to keep praying it, because something needs to be done to find peace on this earth. This world is certainly changed. That's for sure.
I mean, I think the things that are happening have always been there in some way. I just think that some things that people used to think were not okay have now seemed to become more okay. I think, or there's just people who are not afraid to say what they've always been thinking, like it was always there, but it wasn't, for a while anyway, it didn't seem legitimate to think and do some of the things that people are thinking and doing, and now there seems to be more people who are openly applauding some of these things and justifying them, and you know what I mean?
Well, I think the problem is too that people have a way of accepting things because they figure, well, there's nothing I can do about it. But with media, we have now started finding these undesirable things, and people just, as I say, they learn to accept it because what can they do?
I overheard what Jennifer was saying about you having more tests, or you were saying to Jennifer about having more tests.
But I'm not worried about it because God, I don't think wants me up there yet. I think, I just feel, Maria, that there's something yet that I need to do here on earth before I go home.
And I'm sure that will be revealed to you, and maybe more of the same, because what you're doing now is great. So, keep doing what you're doing.
I just love people. And I will say one thing. I would put down my life for anyone because I love people. I truly, truly love people.
I believe that.
And I think this is why God put me here. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
So I thank you for all of your time, my darling, and God bless you and the children. I love you all so very, very dearly.
I love you too, Evelyn. Well, thank you. Thanks again.
All righty.
All right.
We'll see you next Sunday.
Absolutely. Okay.
With bells on.
Yes, of course.
Well, sure.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Bye-bye, sweetie.
Bye. I'm Maria Thompson-Corley, and this has been Finding Beauty. Yeah.
Well, see, I didn't say I was a tomboy when I was growing up.
Well, I figured that might have been the case. I wasn't sure, from what you were saying, it seemed. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I was.
Okay, that's all I needed to do. Well, thank you so much, Evelyn.
Are you finished, sweetheart? I hope I did all right by you.
Yes, you did. You did. I mean, the whole the original point of it was that I got sort of a little bit down. Well, someone mentioned the idea of me doing a podcast, and or something similar, which would never have crossed my mind otherwise. And then as I thought about what I would do, it was sort of, part of it was just the idea of the arts being devalued, but part of it also was just the idea of the ugliness around us and people, again, seeming to embrace things that to me were just counterproductive. It was just a little bit depressing. So I thought of people, first of all, who were mainly musicians and artists, and there was that aspect. But as I was thinking of who I would want to talk to, I thought, people who, to me, might have something inspiring to say, because I thought, if I found them inspiring, then other people might find them inspiring. And so, so this current small batch that I'm doing of St. Thomas people, after talking to my mom, and then I have a friend who is 93 and she's a pianist, and, I really like the idea, and I wish I had been able to talk to my dad, of having people share their experiences that go back a long way. I mean, I talked to Kiana. She was my first person, and, obviously, and it was really interesting, but, obviously, she doesn't have as much experience to draw on, but it was still, really interesting. But I like the idea of, especially after having talked to my dad and this 93-year-old lady, she was so happy to hear herself interviewed, in the sense that, I don't know, I mean, for her it was like a way of almost like, I don't know if it was validation, but, and she had, or she has developed this relationship, which is a very loving relationship with a pianist who is he's a very famous pianist, and out of the blue she decided she wanted to take a lesson with him. And she's never a famous pianist, but, it's just this very wonderful, loving relationship that started when they were both 90. And,
my.
Yeah, so he's like, her dearest friend, and, it's beautiful. But I mean, there are just different reasons why people, I think, are inspiring, and it would be nice for other people to be exposed to them. And I don't know who, I mean, it might be 10 other people, but that's okay. To me, it's like whoever can benefit from the wisdom and inspiration. And I'm hoping, I'm going to do a number of St. Thomas people, and I'm hoping that other St. Thomas people will listen, and we'll learn a little bit more about you. And I already talked to Gary, because he wrote a book of poems, and I wanted to talk about that. And then I'm going to try to hook up with Mildred, and also with Jane Baldwin, and I say and Liz Lennon, and so these are the people that I have in mind for right now. And Liz was just a very interesting sort of career girl thing that's sort of not, again, in keeping with the norm, because I'm a bit of a feminist, and so I thought that's interesting. But I mean, people don't have to have like a particular bent. I just think these people are interesting, and I think the things that they've done, or the people that they are, I know that I don't know that much about Jane Baldwin, honestly, except that she was always by John's side, and I'm curious to find out more about her, and
she's a beautiful person.
Yeah, and obviously for her to be such a stalwart, these guys don't do these things on their own. I mean, they have somebody taking care of things, and that was kind of the role. But I'm just curious to find out more about her as well. So the thing that keeps me from doing this is that once I do the interview, then I have to edit it because I go a lot. And it's one thing when you're talking to somebody and stumble. And, in our case, we had to do things 3 times, so I'd have to stick them together. So there's things that I have to take out, like this part is being recorded too. I'm going to get rid of that. So, that part can be time-consuming depending on how perfectionistic I am about trying to clean up my own speech. I mean, I try to make it like a real conversation, so people will say things like, it's hard to get rid of some things. But anyway, it takes me a while sometimes to get around to that with the other things that I'm doing, and it takes way longer than the actual conversation. But
sure.
So, hey, do you mind if I can include this part of our conversation, since it, as I said, we are still being recorded? If I put that in the part that you're talking about being feisty, that you were a tomboy and stuff like that? Do you mind?
I don't mind.
Okay.
Because you know what? I have some people call me trouble at church. And I think that's because they kind of know that perhaps maybe I might have been a tomboy when I was growing up. Yes. So
well,
I don't mind. Whatever you feel, sweetheart, that you need to do with it is perfectly okay with me.
Excellent.
Because I love you from the bottom of my heart.
I believe that. I know that. But let me just say one last thing, which is that
was that he would be talking to me, but they didn't say when. And, of course, the nurse could not say anything.
Yeah.
And where I have to go in Tuesday for the medicine-induced stress test.
Yeah.
Hopefully he will get to talk to me that day. May not. He may wait until he gets the results of the stress test.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
hopefully by Wednesday anyway, but may not be until Thursday, that I will hear the results of all of them. So.
Okay. But, okay, well, I better go on and do my next thing because yesterday was busy and this weekend has been busy, and I need to catch up on some stuff like my laundry and my practicing. So,
bless you.
Yeah, as usual. Life goes on. Yeah, it is what it is. But okay, well, thanks again.